Mhm. Good afternoon, councillors, officers, members of the public and press. Welcome to the meeting of Children's Services. This meeting is a remote meeting being live streamed to the website and recorded. I will now hand you over to Denise Wimpenny from Democratic Services.
Thank you, Chair. We'll begin the meeting by way of a roll call of all those in attendance remotely. And may I request members to confirm they have a paper copy of the agenda and can both hear and see councillors in the meeting. We'll now begin the roll call. Councillor Hamilton.
Yes, I've got everything I need. Thank you. I'm good to go.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Yes, I'm here with papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lauderdale.
Present and correct with papers.
Thank you. Councillor Lindridge.
I'm here. I've got the papers. Thank you.
Councillor Little.
I've got the papers and I can see, thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Present and have all the paperwork.
Thank you. And Councillor Smith, the chair, is present with all of the paperwork.
And I've got all the paperwork.
Thank you. I've now got co-opted members. Jo Heaton, I understand apologies have been submitted on her behalf. And Joanne Wilson.
Yes, I'm here and I'm just getting all the papers up in front of me now.
Thank you. David Turner, we have apologies from. Mark Tilling.
Yes, I have all the papers and I'm present, thank you.
Thank you. Zoe Westley.
Yes, I'm here and I've got all the papers, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone present today that I haven't called? No, is that everyone? If I can just remind everyone to keep the microphones on mute and unless they ask to speak. I'll now hand back to the chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Denise. We've gone through the apologies of absence. There's no extras? No? So I'll move on to item 2. Any declarations of interest from any members? No? Item 3, we agree the minutes of the last meeting held on the 15th of September. All agreed?
Yes.
Thank you. There's nothing under item 4, so we'll move on to item 5, key decisions, and I'll move over to Sandra.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just point out before I start this report that there were 2 reports due to come to this committee on with 4 plan entries. The first one is this ESG report, but the second one was a high needs block report. So we, in previous years, when we've gone to Schools Forum, we've had to go for a disapplication request to the Secretary of State to transfer monies from the schools block into the high needs block. This year at Schools Forum, they decided that no such transfer will be made. So that report has been removed from the agenda.
Thank you, Sandra.
So I'll move on now to the report on the DSG, the Dedicated Schools Grant, which is the former Education Services Grant. This is the 5th year this report's been presented to this committee. Members will recall that new national funding arrangements were introduced in 2017-18, which shifted responsibility for funding statutory duties provided to our schools from a specific grant to the Dedicated Schools Grant. For financial year 21-22, we are proposing a rate of £60 per pupil, and this rate has been unchanged for the last 4 years. At 3.3, you can see that we consulted with Schools Forum to consider this proposal, as Schools Forum did not agree to the transfer of the funding to the local authority. Schools were very clear at that meeting that it was not because of concerns about the quality of the services provided by the local authority, but it was considered that funding statutory duties from schools' budget is a budget cut. Unfortunately, regulations state that if agreement cannot be reached with the maintained schools, the matter would need referring to the Secretary of State for a decision. And this is what we've done for the last 5 years. For the last 4 years. We have been successful in each of these financial years. So we have applied to the Secretary of State and he has agreed to the disapplication, which has meant that we've been able to carry out our statutory responsibilities. If the Secretary of State doesn't agree with our disapplication request, we would have a funding issue because we wouldn't have enough budget to be able to deliver our service. So if I can take members now to the recommendations, which are to agree the funding rate is £60 per pupil, to agree that we can submit the disapplication request to the Secretary of State to set the ESG general duties rate at £60 per pupil, and note that this is the 5th year that the local authority has applied for this disapplication and that we have been successful in the previous 4 applications.
Thank you, Sandra. Anybody want to come in on this? Leslie?
Yeah, can I just ask, you said that for the past 5 years it's been successful. What would happen if this proposal was made to the government and they came back and they declined? Do you have a plan for that?
Well, this actually happened in the first year. So the very first year when we went for this application, the Secretary of State said no to the local authority. So we actually had to take the Secretary of State to court. So we had a judicial review with the government. They asked us to supply a lot of information, which we were able to supply, and they overturned their decision and they agreed to the disapplication request. So we are very hopeful, because we've been able to supply this information in the past, that they'll accept this request again. If we were unsuccessful, then we would have an issue, because the funding equates to roughly £400,000 to discharge our statutory duties for schools.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Leslie. Brenda?
Thanks, Lisa. First of all, Sandra, is £60 per pupil enough? You know, does that cover what we need to cover? And secondly, do we just keep going on and on and on like this forevermore? Or is there a way of getting more funding so that we don't have to go through all this process?
So to answer your first question, the £60 covers a proportion of the cost, and the local authority puts the rest of the cost in. But we felt that was fair to schools. We wanted to show to the schools that, you know, we absolutely emphasise with them that, you know, it is a funding cut. We used to get a separate grant for this, and by transferring responsibility to the DSG, it is a funding cut to schools. So we do try and maintain that £60 rate, and we put a contribution in, but we are constantly looking at how we deliver our service and whether we can do it more efficiently. And the second question, we haven't really considered asking for additional funding, but there is more funding going into schools. We've been very successful on our application for more funding for the high needs block. So we could, if Children's Service Committee wanted us to ask for some funding, but I would think in the current circumstances, I don't think there's any money out there.
No, but I would suggest, because we have written as a committee to the Secretary of State before about this issue, and I would suggest we just keep doing that. And maybe as a committee, you know, highlight the issue again, and see if and although there may not be anything there, and I appreciate what you're saying, Sandra, there may not be anything there now, but I think if we just ignore it, they'll think we're all right. Yeah. So I think we just need to keep highlighting the fact that we're not all right at all.
Chair, just on that, I know that the school forum, Ms Mock Taylor might be looking on this, but I know every year the school forum write to the Secretary of State complaining about this issue, and asking about the funding.
Yeah, so we could actually just sort of bolster that by doing it as a Children's Services Committee, which I think is really something we should be doing. Yeah.
So can I just check, Councillor Harrison, is it more along the lines of that way supporting schools need the funding rather than the council need the funding? So sort of a letter that echoes what school forum write to the Secretary of State with regard to?
Yes, but I don't see any issue about actually writing to say that the local authority need extra funding as well.
Okay.
For schools and to support the schools. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Brenda. Mark?
Thank you, Chair. I absolutely support what Brenda said and what Sandra said. The forum's very clear. This isn't about us saying we're not getting quality service. It's about a cut to schools. But also, if we don't fund it, then there's a cut to the authority. These services have to be supported and have to be funded, and it should be funded as it has always been in the past, and not be a cut to either parties.
Thank you. Sue?
I just wanted to second what Brenda said. I think it is important that we back our schools as well. and shown that we're struggling as a local authority. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Right, thank you.
Thank you. I don't think any of us disagree with what Brenda says. We do need to make sure that it's recognised, and it is a dance that we've been doing every year. Schools deserve the money, but the council also need the money to be able to keep going. So, is there no dissent on the recommendations that agree to the 21-22 funding rate of £60 per pupil, to agree to submit the disapplication and note that this is the 5th year? All agreed?
Agreed.
And just to add,
in the addition to Brenda writing a letter to back up the schools forum.
Yeah,
well,
agreed.
I don't think I'll be writing it, but a letter will be written.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much. Right, moving on to 6.1. Can I pass over to Anne? Anne, you're on silent.
Sorry about that. The report here is to nominate a local authority representative to serve on the governing body of High Tunstall College of Science. It's a duty of the local authority to consider any nominations for the appointment of local authority governors before they're actually considered by the governing body themselves. As an appendices to the report is a copy of the application that's received from the nominee. If I could take you to Appendix B of the report, which sets out details with regards to this candidate. The applicant is currently a serving member of the governing body after serving on the governing body's parent governor, and is currently a local authority governor. The applicant's term of office as a local authority governor will expire in February 2021. The applicant is a valued member of the governing body, brings a range of skills to the governing body, including knowledge of the college and community, and is committed to the role. The application has been endorsed by both the head teacher and the chair of governors.
Thank you, Anne. Anybody want to speak on this agenda? So the committee gives consideration to the applicant. Are we all agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. There is no item under 7. 8, any other business with the chair considers urgent. I had an email off Brenda today. Apologies, Brenda, I never got your original email. In regards to COVID in schools. I'd made a decision that we weren't going to open it up for discussion tonight, but reflecting on it, I decided that I would hand over to Amanda Whitehead to read a statement in regards to COVID in schools and how we are dealing with it. This is not open for discussion. No comments will be made on this. This is a statement that has been written for information only. Any hands that will be raised will not be accepted, just for information. So I can pass it over to Amanda.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the statement around schools is as the following. So from September, all schools in Hartlepool reopened to welcome all pupils back, and despite facing challenges associated with COVID-19, have remained open to support the care and education of children and young people. All schools in Hartlepool are working really hard and in extremely difficult times, and are dealing with significant challenges that they have not had to deal with before. Nevertheless, schools have responded to the challenges with the welfare and the protection of their pupils and the workforce as their primary consideration, and they've done this really strongly. Rigorous health and safety risk assessments, which are fully compliant with government advice, are in place in all schools in Hartlepool, and they have been monitored by health and safety teams to ensure the schools are as safe as possible. In addition, the schools and the local authority have worked closely together to share the information and to work collaboratively to support children and young people. Timely advice and support is provided to schools on a daily basis, 7 days a week, which informs the decision making around positive test cases and the need to isolate close contacts. So the evidence shows that the transmission rates of the virus is low in schools and that most pupils or staff who test positive in Hartlepool schools are contracting the virus outside of that school environment. Children and young people have responded extremely well to be back at school since September, and they are enjoying the opportunities that this has afforded them. They are responding well to the circumstances they find themselves in, and they remain positive despite the uncertainties they face about their futures at the moment. It's significant to note that there have been no permanent exclusions of any pupils since the term commenced in September. The impact of the COVID-19 virus is having a significant impact upon the school's workforce, as head teachers and their teams are going the extra mile and working harder than ever to support their pupils, providing both classroom and remote learning. Extremely challenging times. As a consequence, the school's workforce is exhausted and the demands on them are taking their toll, with some staff not having had a break since the start of the outbreak back in March this year, and that needs to be noted. However, their commitment to pupils and their well-being and education remains steadfast, and the local authority cannot praise our schools highly enough for their dedication, for their support and the care they provide for the children and the young people of Hartlepool. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And on behalf of Children's Service Committee, I'd just like to say thank you to all the head teachers and staff within our Hartlepool schools for all of the hard work that they are doing to keep our children safe in this unprecedented times. I mean, nobody has a handbook on how to deal with it. We're all learning on a daily basis, and I'd just like to say thank you very much, and thank you, Amanda, for that statement. There is close of play. The next meeting is on Tuesday, the 26th of January at 4 p.m. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Good night.